Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am here to recap Sister Wives. This is season 16, episode 5, entitled Sad, Sorry, Lonely Little People. I know I sound like a broken record when I say that this recap is going to be quick, but I really do think this one is, because this episode, nothing happened. It was really just about uh, a focus on Isabel's surgery and sort of wrapping that up, and literally nothing else happened. So this should be quick. So let's see if we can get through this really quick. So let's start with the episode open. Christine and Isabel are in New Jersey, staying with Christine's sister Wendy. Christine says that they have the same mom. You know, Christine comes from a plural family. Her dad had a few wives. But Sister Wendy is not a polygamist. She is in a monogamous marriage with her husband, and she has some young kids, and they're all just hanging out, having dinner. And Christine says that she and Cody are in the worst place that they've ever been in their marriage, and so she's not sorry that he's not there, that maybe distance and some time could help them, but the problems will still be there when she gets back. And really, she is sad for Isabel because logically, Isabel understands why Cody can't be there, but emotionally, she's devastated. But Cody sent Isabel off with one of his sweatshirts that she could wear so it could feel like a hug, and that's exactly what she does. The next morning, they head out like at 4 a.m. to get to the hospital, Christine and Isabel, and they check in and they prep Isabel for surgery, and then they wheel her off. And now Christine just has to wait by herself for a few hours while the surgery happens. And I think it would have been helpful had Cody been there for her to be supportive, because Christine is emotional. This has been a really long road. She shares that uh, Isabel was diagnosed with scoliosis at 13, I think she said, and it was, you know, physical therapy and exercises and a really uncomfortable brace that Isabel had to wear that was very painful, and then coming to the conclusion that they needed to have surgery and then having to apply for insurance. It's just been a long road. And also, she gives more details about what's going to happen during surgery, which they've done, but she gets a little bit more graphic and says that they're going to have to separate, you know, go into the side, separate Isabel's ribs, collapse a lung. I was just like, wow, like I know surgery is risky and invasive, but that's serious. And so when they're wheeling Isabel off, it's just like her child, it's like it's out of her hands. I mean, it is, and she trusts the doctors and the team, but it's like, I just think that's when you need your partner, your husband. You know, you're so strong for your daughter, for Isabel, and now you just you know, you need somebody there. And Christina's carrying this weight totally alone, and it sucks, but she's a mom, and you have to do what you have to do. You have to be there for your child, be there for her, take care of her, carry the weight. It's a lot. Anyway, the surgery goes well. When it's over, the doctor calls Christine. He shows her the x-ray. Her spine is now like at a 50-degree angle. It's not vertically straight, but it's exactly where they were hoping to get it, so the surgery is a success. Christine's very happy. Isabel is coming out of her anesthesia. She's totally out of it. She's all doped up. She's crying out for Cody and her daddy. It's really hard to watch, and they're just telling her, okay, we're going to call him. But from my understanding, when you're coming out of anesthesia, like, she kept forgetting that she was asking for him, so she would ask again. Like, it's a lot. And she's now in a whole lot of pain, more so than she ever was. I mean, you guys, they collapsed a lung. Like, yeah, you're gonna be in pain. She's uncomfortable, she's medicated, she's out of it, and they have to be at the hospital for 5 days for recovery, and they have to get her up walking a little bit each day until finally on the 5th day she has to be able to walk down the hospital corridor. And you know, Isabel is very stoic. She's for real stoic, you know, with Cody not being there. And she's very, you can tell she's driven and she's motivated and she's a strong person. She, on the 5th day, walks down the hall. So they release her back to Aunt Wendy's house. And who's there when she gets there? Her older sister, Aspen, and Aspen's husband, Mitch. They've come from Utah to be there with Isabel, as well as Hunter, who is Janelle's son, comes to visit because he's going to school on the East Coast. Janelle mentions he is getting his master's degree at Johns Hopkins, which is, I think, in Baltimore. My old boss graduated from Johns Hopkins. It's a very prestigious school, so congratulations to Hunter. That's not an easy thing, but he's actually come down to be supportive. And Christine says that when they reached out to her that they wanted to come, she told them, you know, try to, you know, social distance and quarantine as much as you can. And on paper, it's probably not wise them being there, but as soon as Isabel saw them, just a smile on her face, you know, that meant everything. And so, and also Christine says having them there, she didn't realize like how meaningful and important it was and helpful it was to her as well. Yeah, because you need family there to lean on. And like I said, Christine has been carrying this all on her own, and it must have been a relief to have Aspen there, to have Hunter. And Hunter says that he's happy to be there and support the family in any way he can. It was very actually touching, because yeah, getting well, getting better isn't just like medication, but just like loving on somebody. You just like, yeah, you can't help me, you can't take away my pain, but you could just sit here with me. That's all you need sometimes, is that support. So that was actually really nice to see. So then Christine, Isabel, and the girls head back to Flagstaff, and Christine invites over Cody and the wives to go over everything that happened. When Cody arrives, he sees Christine, and Christine she's run ragged. She is basically a full-time nurse to Isabel, which I'm sure she's happy to do because that's her daughter, but it is a lot. She, you know, because Cody's looking at her like, oh, you look tired, just really jet lagged. And she's like, no, like I'm up at 5 a.m. every day. I have to wake Isabel up in the middle of the night to administer her medications that she has to take. Like I'm exhausted, like it's a lot. And Janelle walks up and overhears that and says like, oh, is there anything I can do? Is there any way I can be of help? Like if you need me to come. And Christine says, no, that's okay. You know, with distancing and protocols, like it's probably wise that you don't. And you know, I'm sure she appreciated, because nobody else, not even Cody, offered to lift not one finger. And you know, it's funny because I wonder, had Cody and the other wives not been there, because we know Janelle and Christine have gotten together socially, if Christine would have been like, yeah, can you come over? I just need like a good 3 hours solid sleep. But she said, no, you know, it's okay. And Janelle says, I'll sleep in a tent, like I'll outside, whatever you have to do. And Christine's like, no, it's okay. Isabel comes out. She's still in a lot of pain. She seems a little groggy. So this is a lot. She had a lot done to her. As she shows them the scar, and then they start sharing the story about how when she was coming out of her anesthesia, she kept, you know, calling out for Cody, and she didn't remember that she'd asked, you know, 2 minutes before. And, you know, Christine very, you know, slyly takes a jab at Cody and says, oh, you know, when we first got there, we were checking in, the nurse told Isabel like, oh, don't worry, your dad, he should be right in. And Christine had to correct her real quick and say, no, actually, he's not gonna be right in. He couldn't come, you know, because of COVID. And Cody's just sitting there just like scowling. You know, he's so upset that he couldn't be there, because he said it's circumstantial with COVID. He just doesn't know how he could have made that work. Well, you make it work the way Christine made it work, but enough. We all know that, right? So when Christine tells the nurse like, oh no, he won't be coming, he's not here, the nurse said, you know, had to sort of like backpedal and tell Christine and Isabel like, oh, well, don't worry, like with anesthesia, you won't even remember that he wasn't here. And Cody's just like, you know, Cody's upset because he couldn't be there, and he wanted to be, and he should have been. He should have been there for Isabel and for Christine as a husband and as a father, but he didn't. It's over now. You know, Isabel goes back inside, and Cody says that he's just happy that the surgery is done, that Isabel's on her way to recovery and a more comfortable life, and he's just happy with all the decisions they've made. Because I guess I should say, I'd be remiss if I don't mention that Christine had said earlier in the episode that if it wasn't for COVID, Cody would have been there at the surgery, because he's been to all of Isabel's appointments. They've flown to other states to meet with other doctors, and he's always showed up. It really was just because of COVID. And Cody's saying that he's just really happy, all the steps they took to lead them here, because when surgery was first presented a while ago, it would have been where they would have had to cut her down the back and put in metal rods. It would have been maybe more traumatic on her body than this already was. So he's really glad that they, you know, they made these decisions and we came to this, when really he does eventually give Christine the credit and says, you know, he's saying we, but really it's Christine. Christine carried this load, and she really deserves the credit, and she does. And he's, you know, same old thing, just, you know, upset. It's hard. It's unfortunate that the family is so separate on their feelings of COVID that they can't all just come together and be together. But what the family can agree on is that they're happy that the surgery is done, that she is, you know, just going to have a better quality of life, if you will, you know, in terms of her health and her comfort level. So this was filmed back in the summer of 2020. I'm sure Isabel's come a long way, and I do wish her all the best. She's a great girl. She's a great daughter. She seems like a great person. Cody then goes to visit Janelle because she's back from North Carolina with her visit with Maddie. She's out front raking the leaves, and Cody states that because Gabe is in school and Garrison's working socially, that he still needs to, you know, distance himself from Janelle. They're out front. She's raking the leaves. He asks how the trip was. She said it was fine. That it turns out Maddie and the family aren't going to be able to visit like they thought they were anytime soon. It's just not feasible, and that's kind of a bummer. She says, though, that with Hunter being at school on the East Coast, he's able to go visit Maddie all the time because it's just a 5-hour drive. And Cody's just jealous. He says, yeah, I'm just so jealous of people who basically give 0 Fs about this whole panorama and social distancing and protocols and have no problem just traveling and visiting. He's jealous of him. Well, you know, it is what it is. Be jealous. What can you do? So then Janelle segues into Garrison, and she tells Cody, you know, Garrison's been working really hard. He's been saving his money like crazy, and he has saved enough for closing costs on a house, but he doesn't have enough for a down payment. And I thought, oh, is she about to hit Cody up for money, like to loan Garrison? But no, that is not where this conversation was going at all. She tells Cody that because he doesn't have enough to buy a house because houses in Flagstaff are too expensive, Garrison's going to have to stay with her a little while longer until he saves up enough money. And this annoys Cody. He's perturbed because now remember, they have Gabe out in the apartment, you know, outside, out of the house, but Garrison, who works essentially and is exposed to other people, is in the house, and this prevents Cody from coming over to visit Janelle and Savannah. And this is really affecting his relationship with Janelle. And I guess it's Garrison's fault. So what's really happening here is he's giving Janelle an ultimatum. Kick Garrison out or I won't come around. And he even shares with Janelle, and I thought they always made a point in the past to keep, you know, they don't talk about the other wives with Cody or his relationships. Like, they don't speak on it. But he's fine to just say to Janelle, you know, my relationship with Christine, her attitude is, you know, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. You do what you want to do, and we'll just do whatever we want to do. And if that's the game you want to play, Janelle, then I just won't come around. And I'm just like, wow, is this what's going on right now? Like, what? This is the thing, you know, it's not like Garrison, he wants to buy a house. That's a great thing. It's not as if he's some 30-year-old bum living in his mom's basement playing video games all the time and it's time for him to be an adult. Because Cody's saying to Janelle, he's an adult. Like, he can figure it out. And Janelle's telling him, you know, we always agreed when it comes to our kids, who, you know, is the center of my universe, we're always going to try to give them the best leg up on life, launch them as best as we can. And that's all I'm trying to do. What is his other option? We can kick him out and he could take the money he's saved and just spend it on rent when he can buy a house. Like, you know, yeah, he's an adult and you don't parent him anymore, but you want to be as helpful as you can. He's trying to get to a better place and do something good. Why don't we, I mean, he can't be more than what, 22, 23? I don't get it. And Janelle says that when it came to plural marriage, when she first entered into it, she knew better than to make Cody like the center of her universe because he wasn't always going to be around. He's going to be with other wives and other kids. And so it's her kids that she's really focused on, and they kind of run through all the other wives and how they feel. And Robin thinks, you know, you really just have to strike a balance between your kids and your family, or your kids and your husband, because you're all family. And Mary agrees, and Christine straight out says, if you're asking me whether I would choose Cody or my kids, I'd choose my kids 1,000 times before Cody, because right now, especially her daughters, they're with her every day. They're her companions. They're the ones keeping her company. Where is Cody? So they're really not getting anywhere. Like I said, Cody is giving Janelle an ultimatum, saying, you know, we're in a good place right now, but we're not going to be unless we can see each other. And Janelle says, yeah, I don't want to be away from you any more than I need to be, and this is breaking my heart. What am I supposed to do? And he's looking at her like, I know, I can see it in your eyes. You're just thinking about your babies. It's just, I don't. And Cody's like, you know, we got him a car. I mean, we launched him with a car. He should be fine. Like, what more does he need? I don't have kids. I don't know. So maybe I can't say. I do think you have to strike a balance between your kids and your husband. And there's some point where you got to let your kids go and fly on their own. But I don't think it's unreasonable to have my son stay with me while he's saving to buy a house so he can be out and never have to come back ever again. Like, I don't. they're not getting anywhere. So Cody just sort of like, skulks off because he sees that they're at a standoff, him and Janelle, and neither one is going to budge right now. He feels very strongly about his COVID protocols, and she feels very strongly about not kicking her child out for no real good reason other than, well, if I don't, your dad won't come around. What a rock and a hard place. But we'll see if Janelle and Cody's relationship gets any better or any worse. And if it gets worse, I guess it's Garrison's fault. All his fault. Terrible. I want to close out with Mary's segment because it was really quick. She decides to go out on a hike to her favorite trail to just get away from it all. What all is, I don't know, because she's always alone. But she does say that running two businesses is very time consuming and overwhelming. And I'm assuming she's talking about the bed and breakfast in Utah that she runs from afar and her LuLaRoe business. I think that's what she's talking about. Anyway, she stops so that she can do a confessional on her iPhone. And she just says that she's just been feeling really, really lonely lately. We have to remember she doesn't have any kids at home. Cody never comes around by his own admission. And it's hard. She says that Cody has had conversations with her, that he's made it clear that they're friends and that's all they're ever going to be. And that's good. That's a good thing though. Like don't feel sorry for her. It's better than nothing. Of course she would want more, but it is what it is. She says that when she was going through the whole catfishing situation, the family watched her go through it and were wondering, is she going to stay? Is she going to go? And so she's thought about all the options. Should she leave? Should she stay? I mean, there's really only two options, leave or stay. And she stayed. She's here, you guys. She's not going anywhere. She's been here. Yeah, so let's not feel sorry for her because she knows exactly what's going on. Mary's not stupid. She watches the show. She sees what Cody says about her, what the other wives say about her, and she wants to stay and be in a non-full marriage. Then stay. Like, I have no issue with that. I never really felt sorry for me. I should take that back. A few seasons ago, when we were watching Cody and Mary's marriage fall apart, the way we're watching Cody and Christine's marriage fall apart, I felt bad for her then because I felt like he never really gave her an opportunity to make up for the whole catfishing thing. I felt like his ego was hurt and he never really got over it, and he was done with her. And that was sad to watch, and I felt bad. But I don't now because, like I've always argued, I don't really think she's there for Cody. I don't really even think she's there for the family. The family doesn't come around. They don't call her. Janelle says that she's reached out to Mary, but probably not as much as she should. And Cody says that, yeah, he talks to her not even once a week. He talks to her barely ever because they're not in a full marriage, and that's fine. Like, he doesn't see a problem with that. So if Mary doesn't see a problem with it either, then why should we? If she's fine to basically live like a single woman in a non-full marriage and know that you're never going to have your hand held. You're never going to be kissed, be intimate with somebody, share a meal with your partner. I don't know, go get coffee. If you're fine with that, living single on your own, but in a marriage, but a not married, then do it. What I'm trying to say is Mary is very well aware of everything that's going on. She's not a dummy. She gets it, and she wants to stay. And she says the family's stuck with her. And in terms of relationships with others, she has some really good relationships in the family. Some are rocky and some are non-existent. Okay, fine. Do you? Cody says that in the past, when it came to plural marriage, he always felt like one of the benefits was that you would never really be alone. You'd have a sister wife there. You'd have kids there. You'd have him there. But that has proven to be false because Mary is totally on her own. Lonely, by herself. And he says that COVID has revealed their true selves. And what they are sad, sorry, lonely little people. And that's how it ended. I don't, obviously, I think what we can take away from what we're watching is that when it comes to the whole panorama, being in a plural family and where your family is all separated the way the Browns are, yeah, it doesn't work. And I don't even know that it would have worked if they were in one house, because that could be made as an argument, like, well, if they were in one house, they could all quarantine together. But Christine and Janelle, actually, they both would have traveled. Janelle would have gone to North Carolina to help out Maddie with the baby, and Christine would have taken Isabel. I mean, so would it have made a difference? I don't know. You have different personalities and different levels of comfort when it comes to handling, the whole lockdown and traveling, and everybody's different. And, you know, Cody, he actually said in his segment with Janelle when he walked away, he was really frustrated because he's supposed to be the head of the family and the head of the house, but he's clearly not the head of this household, Janelle's. He's the head of some, Robin's, but clearly not Janelle, not Christine, and he, you know, Mary doesn't count. So what do we have here? Anyway, that was the episode. You let me know what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. I've been getting a lot of comments, and it's been really fun engaging with you all and hearing what your thoughts are, and I really appreciate it. This weekend is Christmas, so if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to you and your family, or Happy Holidays. And I can't believe we're like coming into the new year. It's crazy, but I thank you all for always coming back. I really appreciate it. And I will see you next week. Next week's episode. Now that looks good. It looks like we're finally getting down to like the real issues here, and I'm so here for it. So tune in next week, and I will see you then. Okay, bye.